This is Justin Steele and Kelly Cocktail with Nashville News 9. Whoa, okay. That was the lightning fast news flash.
Yeah, got the headlines out.
Exactly. But now let's really dig in. Welcome everyone to the deep dive.
This is where we go beyond the bulletin and give you the full picture.
And today we are unpacking a situation developing downtown. It's got some interesting layers for you to consider, especially if you care about Nashville's music history.
Yeah, what we're looking at is based on a really detailed report from Saving Country Music. It just came out yesterday, April 17th, 2025.
And it outlines the permanent closure of the Patsy Cline Museum, which is, it's significant news.
Definitely. It's located at 119 3rd Ave South.
Right, smack dab in Lower Broadway. And the key date here is May 15th. That's when it's scheduled to close its doors for good.
It only opened back in April 2017, wasn't it?
That's right, April 2017. It was located on the second floor of the Johnny Cash Museum building.
Which is kind of central to the whole story here.
It really is. For a lot of fans, that museum was a vital link to Patsy Cline, to her legacy.
And the reason given for the closure, that's what immediately jumps out from the article.
Yeah.
The space the Patsy Cline Museum occupies.
Yeah.
It's being repurposed.
Repurposed for what?
For an expansion of the Johnny Cash Museum.
Right, the Cash Museum. Okay, so one museum expanding, another one closing in the same building.
Exactly. And that immediately raises some big questions, doesn't it, about how Nashville supports its diverse musical heritage, not just one or two big names.
Absolutely. I mean, Patsy Cline, her career was cut so tragically short, but her mark on country music, it's indelible, just huge.
Her songs still resonate. Artists across genres cite her as an influence.
Totally. And the museum itself, from what the article says, it housed a pretty amazing collection. Hundreds of artifacts, photos, videos, personal items, things you couldn't see anywhere else.
Yeah, a real treasure trove.
Yeah.
And now the future of those artifacts, the article mentions it's unclear where they'll end up.
Which is definitely concerning. You hate to see history just, disappear into storage somewhere.
And if we zoom out a bit, look at the context.
Hmm.
The article points out something really interesting, a parallel situation.
Oh.
This isn't actually the first time the Johnny Cash Museum's growth has sort of coincided with plans for another Legends tribute falling through. In the same building complex.
Wait, you're talking about the Merle Haggard situation?
Exactly. Back in October 2017, so just a few months after the Patsy Cline Museum opened, actually there were these big announcements.
Yeah, I remember that. A Merle Haggard museum, even a restaurant, Merle's Meat Plus 3 Saloon. The Haggard family was involved.
Right. It was planned for that same property owned by the Cash Museum folks.
But then what happened? It just sort of vanished from the news.
Well, fast forward just over a year, February 2019. Those Merle Haggard plans.
Yeah.
Officially shelved.
Instead.
The owner announced the opening of Johnny Cash's Kitchen and Saloon, right where the Haggard tribute was supposed to go.
Wow. Okay, so seeing the Patsy Cline Museum now closing for a Cash expansion, it does feel like a pattern, or at least an echo of that earlier situation.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's hard not to see the connection the article draws.
And the article also touches on, public popularity, right? The poll rankings.
Yeah, that's another layer. It highlights the Johnny Cash Museum's consistent #1 ranking in the USA Today Readers Poll for Best Music Museum, year after year, including 2025.
Okay, #1. Very popular, clearly. And where did Patsy Cline's museum rank?
It held a respectable #9 spot in that same 2025 poll.
#9, I mean, that's still top 10 in the country. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Not at all. It shows people valued it, but, perhaps it didn't have the same visitor numbers day in, day out, or maybe the same financial backing as the Cash Museum.
Right.
And that brings up this pretty crucial point the article makes. How much does that sheer popularity dictate what gets preserved in a physical space?
So let's connect this back for you listening. What are the takeaways here? We've got a successful museum, the Johnny Cash Museum, expanding. On the surface, okay, good for tourism, maybe.
You could argue that. More cash is always popular.
But it's directly displacing a dedicated space for another absolute giant of country music. Is that, a fair trade-off? Does Patsy Cline's legacy somehow deserve less physical presence in Music City?
It's a tough question. And it forces us really to think about priorities. How do we value and preserve all aspects of our musical heritage?
Especially when, as the article points out, we've seen other closures. The George Jones Museum shut down in 2021.
And the Ernest Tubb Record Shop's future on Lower Broadway is still kind of up in the air, isn't it?
Yeah, there's uncertainty there, too. So Lower Broadway seems to be consolidating its tributes in a way.
It does. And while the Country Music Hall of Fame does a great job with the big picture,
Sure, it's essential.
these smaller, dedicated museums offer something different, a more personal, intimate connection with an artist. Losing those spaces changes the texture of how we experience music history here.
And the article makes a really vital point about vulnerability. Johnny Cash's legacy, it feels pretty secure, globally recognized.
Undeniably.
But Patsy Cline's, maybe it's more reliant on having that dedicated physical space, a place to draw in new fans, keep her story alive and accessible.
Without that focal point, does her presence start to fade a bit from the immediate public consciousness? It's a real risk.
So thinking about this whole picture, the closure, the expansion, the Merle Haggard echo, the other changes on Broadway,
Mhm.
what does this signal about Nashville's evolving landscape?
It certainly paints a picture of change, maybe a shift toward fewer, larger attractions, or maybe just the economics of running these spaces.
It makes you wonder about the future for tributes to artists who are maybe hugely influential, critically acclaimed, but don't have that massive current name recognition like a Johnny Cash.
Are they sustainable in this environment if visitor numbers and poll rankings become the main drivers?
Which leads us, I guess, to the final thought we want to leave you with.
Yeah, something to chew on. Given that the Patsy Cline Museum was still recognized nationally top 10, does public support, measured by polls or sheer foot traffic, really become the sole factor in deciding which legacies get preserved in brick and mortar?
And if that is the direction things are heading, what are the long-term implications? How does that shape the story Nashville tells about its own incredibly rich, diverse musical past?
It's definitely something worth reflecting on, especially as Music City continues to grow and change, what stories get amplified and which ones get quieter.